This podcast is part of the Garnet Media Group podcast network. Garnet Media Group is a partnership between the student-run media outlets at the University of South Carolina. Find out more about Garnet Media's podcast and other student work at garnetmedia.org. Good morning, Gamecocks. I'm Chloe Findlay.
And I'm Meagan Daukshus. We're back for the summer, giving you a recap on the news and happenings on the USC campus and around Columbia.
I'm Caroline Smith, and we hope you're enjoying our summer podcast edition of Good Morning Gamecocks.
And I'm Delaney, Flanagan. This week, we'll take a look into some new student housing coming to USC students soon.
Student housing is a problem for colleges too. Learn what LSU is doing to ease housing stress.
Populations aren't just growing on campuses. All of South Carolina is experiencing a population boom.
And this week in July sees the return of a decades-long television phenomenon. We hope to get your weekend started in the right direction. Welcome to Good Morning Gamecocks.
Welcome back, everybody, on the podcast and the people who are listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed your holiday.
How many hot dogs did you eat, Megan?
I've had 3. I had one on 4th of July, one the day after 4th of July, and one last night.
It's about consistency. It is.
They're good. I mean, I keep mustard relish every single time. That's how I like them.
I'm sorry.
You picked the 2 worst toppings, and you did
Mustard
it's
and
sad.
relish?
I'm not a big
no.
ketchup person.
Oh, that's
Do you know
all
how
I put on my
people-
hot dog.
You know how people are starting to say, like, putting ketchup on a hot dog is, like, weird?
What?
I think it's weird, or putting ketchup on a burger, I don't know.
That's
fries only.
That's a totally normal condiment to put on your dogs and buns.
What are you doing instead? You're putting mayonnaise on hot dogs?
Ugh.
Oh no.
Delaney. Okay, mayonnaise on cheeseburgers, hamburgers is really good though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not on hot dogs.
No.
Isn't that like
Of
a
course
British
not.
thing to put mayonnaise on your fries?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people mix it with ketchup too, ketchup mayonnaise, and dip their fries in them.
Isn't that
I do
basically
that
what Chick-fil-A
sometimes.
sauce is?
Yeah, that's like fry
All-
sauce.
All signature sauces at any restaurant you go to is just, like, a Thousand Island, like, ketchup
Yeah.
and mayo.
That's so true.
Yeah, you're kind
All
of
the
right.
sauces mixed together.
Well, Gamecocks, we've got some stories for you to kick off your weekend, starting with some new opportunities for student housing in Columbia.
Yeah, so a new student housing complex is coming to Columbia in the next few years. It's going to be called Verve Columbia, and it's going to be on the corner of Hugie and Blossom Streets, replacing that old, like, abandoned gas station that's across from Park Place, right next to Founders Park. Pretty good location. I know that I drive past it every single day. I made a couple U-turns in that gas station parking lot, so I will miss doing that. Subtext, the real estate company that's building it, it's going to build a 233-unit building with 697 beds. Studio, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4 and 5 bedrooms will be available. And allegedly, like, according to a company press release, they are going to have a bunch of amenities, like a pool courtyard with cabanas and grills, study spaces, a gym, a sauna and yoga studio, and a content creation studio.
Can I say that as someone who is paying for an apartment, I would really like to pay less and only get a place to live. Like, no one uses the pool at this place that I'm in right now because we all are afraid of it. And, like, if I wanted to go to the pool, I would just go to Strom.
I think I have questions about what is the quote-unquote content creation studio?
That's what I was thinking. I mean,
We don't need this. You know who has one of those? The library on campus. Like, and you know that you're paying an extra $50 a month in rent to get these amenities that we don't need.
Yeah, and also, no, because, like, nobody's going to use that. Like, who's like, oh, if you're creating content, I feel like you already have the resources.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. If you're serious about this, you would have your own setup. And even if you're just getting started, you'll just use your own. I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to see it though.
yeah, I feel like that's almost just a fancy way to say we have a computer lab. Like, maybe there's a recording studio in there, but Maybe we'll
Yeah, I
just be
was gonna
seeing
say,
some
like,
new SoundCloud rappers coming to town with that.
oh no, we're giving them a space to create.
That's
Oh
not
no.
We're opening them.
I mean, what could possibly be in that? I'm thinking like camera setups, light setups, green screen, editing software. Like that's a lot of money. That's a lot of
That's
I
equipment.
really doubt. I don't think it's gonna be that.
It's gonna be a green screen.
Yeah.
It's
A
gonna be a
room.
green screen and one tripod.
Yeah.
And everyone in that building's paying an extra $20 a month to support the fact that they invested into building this.
No, because like based on like location and all of these like amenities, I know this rent is gonna be expensive.
I can already tell on the surface, like they're hitting every red flag. They're hitting like resort style luxury amenities, and I'm like, all 697 people who are going to be living in this place, all they need is the bed.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's what we need. That's what we want. That's what we need. And everything else that's on there in the luxury amenities section is something that campus provides for free if you know how to ask for it.
Yeah. I think too, like almost every off-campus housing that is just for college students around Columbia right now has all these like crazy extra things. And I feel like when I talk to people that live there, not many of them use it besides the pool. And there's also a pull-out Strom. So is it worth the extra few $100s that you might be paying for it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. The goal is for it to be completed by fall 2026. So
Chloe, let me know.
unfortunately, I will miss the completion.
Chloe, you got to do a deep dive for us once that.
Oh
once that
shoot!
comes
Am I
in.
gonna be the only person here when that opens? No, Caroline,
Yeah.
you'll still be here, right?
I'll
In
still be here
grad
because
school?
I'll be in grad school.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We can do it
me too,
together.
maybe.
We will do an investigative piece on this new Verve apartment building just for you guys.
We always need more housing. Is like, and that's a good location. Like, people are probably going to be fighting tooth and nail to move in that place. And you know what? Like, we're sitting here riffing about how we don't need all these amenities, and we're right. But like, I'm sure it'll be fine.
It's also nice, you know, in case you do want to use it. I mean, I would personally love the fact that there's gym, study spaces. Like those would be important to me. I don't know about the cabanas. That seems a little bit much, but
Just give me a chair, a lounge chair. That's about it. I mean, I think the gym is nice, especially for students who are a little further off campus from Strom, so they don't have to travel all the way out to the gym. So, I mean, that would be convenient. I mean, I'm close to campus still. I could walk to the gym. I never choose to, but
I use the gym in my building all the time. That's probably, of the amenities, that's the one that I use the most.
it just makes the most sense,
yeah.
at least to me. But
Yeah, plus also I feel like Strom and Blatt are always so crowded, and it's like, as somebody who like, I don't do a lot of working out, but like when I do go, I don't want to be around people.
That's true.
Yeah, exercising is such a personal choice that I feel like it is, a lot of people prefer to not be overwhelmed by a whole lot of people. And you're right, Strom is usually, if you've ever, any time of day, the weight floor at Strom is just like not a place you want to be.
no,
Battlefield, war zone. People have died. There are actually two other complexes that are being built right now. It's like being built right now. It's right across from Colonial Life Arena on Green Street and Gadsden Street. That's like that super tall building that they've been building all year. 940 bed private student apartment complex. So a little bit bigger than this other one. And I mean, yeah, it's huge.
Literally
It's
the biggest building I've ever seen in my life, dog. It's so
it
big.
has ruined the view from my apartment. We used to be able to like see like the skyline of Columbia at Green Crossing, and now I just see that building. And I get so angry. It makes me so angry.
Yeah, it seems like almost on any open land USC can find, or these housing companies can find, they're building student housing for college kids. And I wonder how much, does each building, I would love to look up if each building completely fills all of the beds or not.
I don't know. Are the ones that are closer to campus filling up faster than like Red Point and like the Retreat, but also Red Point and the Retreat is a lot cheaper than other options that are close to campus. Like I do wish that we could see like how the disbursement of students is because there's also developers Landmark Properties and Peninsula US are also starting to build a 826-bed student housing development at 1050 Idlewild Boulevard. And when I looked it up, it's like a 15-minute walk from Williams-Brice Stadium. So even further away from campus. I think it's a little bit closer than like Red Point.
It just seems like we just keep getting more and more built up. It just seems like the city is becoming really a city. I don't know exactly how to describe that, but when I visited a couple years ago, even then it didn't look as built up as it does now. And I understand this is a capital city. We talked about this last week too. It's a capital city. It's a city with a lot of college students, but it just seems like there was still something when I came down here. There was something I could almost attribute to just being like a little bit of like charm, like Southern charm. And I'm almost afraid with all of this being built up, it's going to lose that appeal completely.
I also just think, like, as USC is admitting so many new students, like, the demand for student housing is very real and needs to be accommodated.
I agree.
But I hate that we keep getting all of these apartment complexes that are just catering to students.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. What about everyone who's not a student? Where are they living?
Yeah, like, I wonder if it, like, is messing with the infrastructure of Columbia. I don't know. I think that obviously Columbia is going to welcome the housing because they probably get money off of it anyway, so it's like, whatever.
Housing has been talked about a lot today already. We've got more, and we've almost been talking about it all year throughout SGTV as we watched the USC, I guess we can call it a housing crisis, happen on campus. Also, upperclassmen were, for the most part, denied housing on college property and dorms and stuff like that, just to make room for all of the new incoming freshmen, because we keep admitting more and more every year. And it seems that this has been a problem at LSU as well. LSU this year is offering freshman students $3,000 to live not on campus this year. But they're only offering it to freshmen that live 30 minutes away from campus. So I don't know what it's like at LSU. I know we obviously have a lot of students in Columbia that live around campus area, around 30 minutes away or so. But I think if there's not a high percentage of kids that live around LSU, I don't know how much room they're making for these new incoming freshmen. I would like to see what the numbers are for that.
They're just like begging people from Baton Rouge. They're like, please live with your parents.
Yeah.
This almost reminds me of, I was watching the news the other day, and they were talking about the mega boom that is happening with SEC schools and schools in the South in general, and how they are just growing and growing with a reckless abandon. Like, their numbers are skyrocketing. And someone had brought up the idea of these new SEC schools being like the new Ivy Leagues, as in they are the ones that are the most sought after, instead of those liberal arts colleges in the North. And I'm like seeing all of these issues with there being overpopulation and overcrowding on these campuses because they're so popular. And it's really making me think, are these going to become like the most coveted universities in the country?
They're certainly not hard to get into, especially for, like, all right, I don't know what other governors are doing with their states, but in the state of South Carolina, if you're like a top 10%, top 5%, I don't know exactly what it is, like in the top of your high school class, you just get automatically admitted to USC. Like, you barely have to go through the application process. Governor McMaster is just like, if you're from here and you're kind of smart, we desperately don't want you to leave. But apparently they desperately don't want anyone from any state to not go here. I feel like USC's admittance rates are like through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
It's like devaluing our education. Like, I wish I went to a school that was harder to get into.
Well, it almost reminds me of what happened to UNC Chapel Hill, because their admittance rate flew through the roof too these past couple of years, especially with students from the North. And they became very selective because they have like a quota, like they need to meet a certain number of North Carolina students. And so they became selective in the sense that if you weren't from North Carolina and you got in, that was pretty darn good. Like, their acceptance rate for out-of-state students was like 5 or 6%.
It's basically impossible to get into UNC Chapel Hill from North Carolina.
that's almost what I'm wondering is what's happening here is if we're making a commitment, if USC is making a commitment to admit more South Carolina students, is it going to become, or has it already become a more coveted university for those who are outside of South Carolina? Like, will it become more competitive? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I
Like,
do
is it,
understand what you're saying, and I do wonder if it's going to go that way. And honestly, I wonder if it's going to have to go that way, because we're every year they're like, this is the biggest freshman class ever. We don't know how we're gonna accommodate it. And then every year they do, and then the next year it's even bigger. At some point, something's gonna break, and the admissions people might realize, oh shoot, we have to change what we're doing, and that might throw a wrench in a whole bunch of people's plans, which is not going to be good either.
I think when we first came in our freshman class, Caroline, I think that was the biggest one in a while that they had. Because, I mean, obviously we had COVID, so I don't know how many students ended up not choosing to come to school because of all the COVID things happening on. So I guess that was the first, like, you're really getting back into everything. And that ever since that, it's just been year after year. Oh, we have the biggest freshman class. And it's like, it's getting old.
Yeah, I feel you with that. It's like, okay, so is it the biggest or is it not the biggest? Like, we can't be using the same headline every year for 5 years in a row.
Yeah. I mean, I will say though, so with all of these freshmen coming in, we have the biggest class every year, they keep saying. Do we think USC will do something like LSU where they're paying students $3,000 to live off campus? I could see it happening because this year they had a big issue.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I can see it happening, but I like kind of just hate it because I feel like such a formative part of your first year of college is living on campus and being in a dorm. And I know like I really like that. And I almost feel like you miss out on an
that
essential
experience?
socialization in college when you're not in a dorm your freshman year. So I wish that they would make it so that they would pay like an upperclassman to move out somewhere in another apartment and help them pay their rent there. Like that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. With the dorm experience is really important incoming freshmen. And USC, along with a lot of schools, do this thing where if you USC will allow you to not live on campus your freshman year, also if you live within like this 30-mile border that LSU is kind of talking about. But if you live outside of that, you have to live on campus your freshman year. You're not allowed to use off-campus student housing your freshman year because they're trying to incentivize this campus life, this top-tier first-year experience, this making campus your home environment. But then to be kicked off 9 months later is really disheartening. I'm one of the luckiest upperclassmen on campus. I'm going into my senior year, and I'm also going into my 4th year living on campus. Almost no one can pull that off. But it's wonderful. Yeah. I love it.
I know. I think that's important. I mean, I worked with the University 101 programs this past semester or past fall semester. And like our biggest thing was first year experience is so important at USC. And I think if this is something that we do offering it to freshmen, we're going to lose that, that number one spot. We keep being rated every year, year after year. I think like Delaney said, offering that $3,000 or however amount they might give would be better for upperclassmen to help them pay with apartments. But I think it is hard for some students who might be using like scholarships to help pay for their housing on campus. So what are we going to do with the upperclassmen who are using scholarships to help pay for their housing? I think it's a hard situation to really fix.
There's just no traditional way to do college anymore. Like this very traditional 4-year model where hopefully you live your first 2 years on campus and the next 2 years you have your friends and you figure it out. This just isn't the way that the majority of people are tackling their college experience anymore. Like people graduate early, people stay later, some people go to grad school, some people don't come when they're 18 and they wait a couple of years. Like the way that people do college now is so different across the board.
Yeah, we're seeing more people go to college now too, which is great. I think that's awesome. Great. People getting their education is amazing. But it's making us run into these kinds of issues, and it doesn't seem like we have a good handle on them yet. So
I think it's also frustrating that these issues always fall back on the students when it shouldn't be our problem. I don't understand why we can't just not admit.
Yeah, I'm almost in the same boat as you because if we don't become more selective, we find ourselves in this never-ending cycle of we're getting more students, not being as selective, so the quality of education decreases. The amount of apartment complexes in the city increases, which means the quality of life in the city decreases. It's just going to be this constant cycle. Now, I understand that they're admitting a lot of people. They're getting so much growth. They're getting so much, USC and SEC schools in general, they're getting so much attention that they have not gotten in a while, I would say. I mean, I think they're the most popular universities in the country right now. I legitimately think that. So I understand where they're going, but I really am hoping, like you, Delaney, that eventually there's going to be a time where we become more selective.
Yeah, I think that would benefit the students. It would come back to help us out. And like, I know that, especially for me and Megan, because we're going into our senior year, so we've seen like 3 years of continuing conversation about this, where I think that, I don't know if you and me individually feel this way, but I know I'm friends with a lot of people who seem to be of the mindset that it, like, quote unquote, gets worse every year. And like, I think a lot of upperclassmen feel like, oh, everything was better my freshman year. And in some, they might be exaggerating some things, but there also might be some areas in which we're legitimately right that things were better 3 years ago and they were better 3 years before that. And USC is one of those schools that puts a lot of pride on its freshman year experience. And I will tell you that when I see all of these flags on the horseshoe saying top rated first year experience, woohoo, this makes me think, oh, so do you care about your upperclassmen? What about me?
That's a good point.
You know, one of the first things that it's kind of funny because one of the first conversations that I remember having in the SGTV office, I don't even remember who it was with, but it was in like the first couple weeks of school. I was enjoying myself. I was having fun. I was doing all these, free events they had on campus. And I forgot who I was talking about it with, but he said, like, enjoy it while it lasts because once you're not a freshman, the school doesn't care about you anymore.
It feels like that, but I think the thing is like, I think with living on campus and, like, eating on campus, you're always running into your friends and stuff like that, but also, like, the university always offers, like, these events on campus, and I think that's part of why, like, living on campus was so fun freshman year. But those events are open to all grades of students. So I think because we're not seeing a lot of students coming back to campus because they're living off campus now, they're not being as involved with those things that are offered besides, say, football games, baseball games, basketball games. I feel like that's about it. Unless they're on campus. I know people go on campus, second they're done with class, they leave, go home. They don't hang around campus as like much as they used to.
I will admit, as an upperclassman living on campus still and still getting to be really close to home with all these events, my life is great and it's still just as fun as it was freshman year. Like, I've lived on the horseshoe for the past couple of years and I'll continue to do so, which means that those fireworks from First Night Carolina, I can see them from my balcony. Like, this is the way it's supposed to be. Everyone deserves this.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves this. And as like the university sees its honors college students as like the cream of the crop, where they're like, oh, well, we don't have the resources to care about all our upperclassmen, so we'll just try to care about these. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's not good.
I feel like they also even did that with housing of people that live on the horseshoe. I remember my freshman year, I couldn't find off-campus housing. I really wanted to live on the horseshoe. And then I found out that was only offered to honor students. And that made me kind of upset because I'm not part of the honors program and I wanted to live on campus still and wanted to live in that area. But now I live a block from campus and I'm right. I can walk to the horseshoe in 2 minutes, but it's not the same as living on the horseshoe. And I think, but with the numbers we're having, they have to do things like that to exclude certain people.
And I think if our university took 2 seconds to ask its general population, not just its honors students, hey, if we gave you the opportunity to have pretty sweet on-campus housing, would you want it or do you still want to live far away? People would overwhelmingly say that they wanted to stay close and they'd be willing to pay for it. And so if the university could extend an olive branch to its upperclassmen, I feel like we would return that love tenfold in a way they don't anticipate.
Yeah. And I think now too, creating this school where you don't live on campus normally after your freshman year, there's almost like a stigma of like, oh, you're weird, you still live on campus still. And it's like, Well, what's the problem with that? Most universities, a lot of universities across the country, you live on campus all 4 years. It's kind of weird that we don't.
Yeah, I have a great time still living on campus. Part of me does kind of wonder, am I missing out on a kind of vibe by not living off campus? Because the culture for upperclassmen is so off campus centered. But I love living on campus, and I wish more students had that opportunity beyond their freshman year.
I lived in an off-campus apartment last year. I'm living off campus again this year. And I just am on campus so much of my day anyways that I feel like my apartment is just the place where I sleep and the place where I cook my meals sometimes. I mean, obviously like my roommates and I like have friends over like every now and then. But like I spend like last semester I was spending an average of like 12 hours a day on campus anyway. So it's like, hey, if I lived on campus, if I had the opportunity to live on campus, that would be incredible because then I also wouldn't have to like find a way to get home in the dark to my off-campus apartment if I don't drive, if I can't get back
Yeah.
and like drive my car in the morning or something. So I also like think from that aspect like it's frustrating.
Yeah, and I think at least with us especially with me, we became so involved in this student organization that is centered in the middle of campus. And so that became like for me, even by October or November, I was telling people that that SGTV office was like my third place. It was like that third area. But for those people that don't have an organization, who are not part of an organization, one or not part of an organization that has this like on-campus hub, I wouldn't be on campus as much if I didn't have this.
And that is also true because if I have like obviously it's not like I'm doing things for that whole hours, but if I have like an hour between classes or like 2 hours between classes, I'm not going home. I go to SGTV office, Leadership and Service Center. I think like as we get all of these students and as we are becoming more of a, I guess, SEC like hub for all these new students, we need to increase our awareness of like these third places around campus and kind of promote them. Because the LSC, like the Leadership and Service Center, I was in there all the time, and part of it was that I had a job where I worked in there. But that space is great. It's so nice.
Yeah, the SGTV office is definitely one of my third spaces, and I work in the library as a peer tutor, so I spend a lot of time in the library or the Student Success Center, and these third spaces really do make it turns campus from a place that I go to school at sometimes to a place that is my home.
Exactly.
Well, with the growing numbers on the USC campus and with that freshman class, Chloe, there's some growing numbers here in the whole state of South Carolina, right?
Yes, there is. The population in South Carolina is growing rapidly according to the data from the 2023 U.S. Census. This past year, South Carolina had the fastest growing white population and was the fastest growing state population-wise, period, in the United States, just overall. In recent years, the state's overall population growth has increased significantly. In 10 years, so from 2014 until now, the population has grown by 700,000 people. In 2014, the population of the Palmetto State was a little bit over 4.8 million, and now it is nearly 5.5 million. Now, do I wonder, is a lot of this coming from students in the colleges? I would garner to say probably.
I think it's people retiring.
That's too.
My hypothesis.
I'll say that my parents have so many friends that have moved from New Jersey down to South Carolina. And even yesterday, I was at a barbecue and everyone was talking, oh yeah, I'm planning on moving into South Carolina in 5 to 7 years. So I think we're just going to keep seeing it grow.
Yep, me too. The census said that it was a significant number of retirees, but also young people, as in people who are just starting to get into their careers, like in their 20s, because of the lower cost of living compared to northern states, western states. It's way different. Like even, I'm sure, Megan, you realized when you went down to South Carolina, all of a sudden, like the CVS bill when I went to South Carolina was significantly cheaper than what I was paying up here.
That's for sure. Even groceries, some groceries, I mean, so much cheaper. Gas prices, when I come back
oh my
up
gosh,
to Jersey,
it's night and day.
Oh, you guys
It's
are lucky.
crazy. Yeah, seriously.
It's
Do not
cheaper
take-
to live and it's easier to work in South
Yes.
Carolina. And in southern states, it's all like this. And like this we don't need to delve into this too deep, but this ease of living and working in a lot of the states in the Southeast have to do with these are right to work states. And up in the Northeast, we see a lot of union activity. That does not exist down here. And while unions do a wonderful job of protecting their workers, they do add an unavoidable level of inefficiency to the economy. We don't have that down here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you just kind of pick, okay, well, do you want safety or do you want freedom? And people kind of decide where on this scale they want to go, and they decide what kind of state they want to live in to live their life.
There's a very high number of jobs in South Carolina. The article that I read said that there's 2.3 jobs open per person living in South Carolina compared to the national average, which is like 1.4 jobs per person.
That's a big difference.
That's a really big difference. And the unemployment rate in South Carolina is smaller than that national average of unemployment. And part of that is because of their big industries. They're big in retail, and then they're big in like industry like rail, like railroads, like steel. And a lot of the people who are working in South Carolina or studying in South Carolina are going to these technical colleges. And so they go to college for a skill, and that skill is directly applicable to a job in one of these larger industries. And that is what keeps our economy in South Carolina very strong. According to the article that I was reading, the South Carolina economy is doing significantly better than other states. And part of that is because they opened up quicker after COVID, and they were able to open up these industries quicker. And as a result, their economy is further along in the process than, let's say, like New York or New Jersey.
I mean it. Like, dang, dude. Like, you can just, if you start in Columbia and you get on the interstate, I-26 going down towards Charleston, you cross I-95, and like all this land on both sides of the interstate is just nothing. It's not worth anything. No one lives on it. The weather's bad. It's like kind of okay for farming, but we don't really need that. All the big farms that make all the money are in the Midwest. We don't need that here. So all of these international manufacturing, textile, steel, all of these companies, cars especially, are just lining this interstate. And as you go into Charleston, like Charlestonians will tell you that interstate smells like money, because there's paper mills. There's, as you pass Volvo, you pass BMW, you pass Boeing, you pass like all of the, out of Columbia, you pass Zeus. I don't really know what they make, but it's huge. And also that interstate is a great place to be because everyone wants to live in Charleston. It's a really fun place to live. Why would you not want to live there? I kind of want to live there. It's great. And Charleston has one of the most active ports in the United States. And the Charleston port has been one of the biggest in the US pretty much since it was built. And so we make the stuff that we export. We don't have to cross state lines with our stuff. So we can just make it in Charleston, put it on a boat in Charleston, and sell it. So we have such an export economy. Also tack that on top of with one of our biggest exports in South Carolina is tourism. Like there's just a lot going on here that people want to be a part of.
And that's something else that I was looking at is we're talking about this population boom. One of the things that, especially after COVID, a lot of states suffered because they lacked tourism, because they were called fly-in states. South Carolina is considered a drive-by state. So it's not a state that you will fly to, it's a state that you will drive to. And of course, the flying was like out of the picture when COVID was really high. So that's another reason why there's more people coming down to South Carolina is because of the strong economy. And part of the reason that the economy is still so strong is that they were able to still have people coming into the state in the time of total lockdown because they were a drive-by state. So people could go drive to the Charleston beach. They didn't have to get onto a plane and, fly to wherever they wanted to in South Carolina, like they had to in other states.
Yeah, it's a convenient location. And so I'm from Florence, South Carolina, which a lot of people who are not from South Carolina might not even have heard of. But Florence sits right on the I-95 corridor in South Carolina, and within about a 3 to 5 hour radius of Florence, we have cities like Myrtle Beach, Columbia, Charleston, Savannah, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Charlotte. If you're a little braver, DC and Nashville are still very drivable. And this is a drivable radius. These are cities that people have heard of and love hanging out in. It's a good place to be if you want to both enjoy where you are and easily get to other places that are enjoyable.
I will say, we're speaking of Florence, if you don't know Florence, it's where the Bucky is.
Where the Buc-ee's
is. I actually had someone I knew from New Jersey drive down all the way to Buc-ee's just to go to Buc-ee's and come all the way back up to New Jersey.
Tourism.
That's it.
That's what I'm saying. Tourism.
It's crazy.
I mean, I know Buc-ee's is worth it, and I've been to Buc-ee's several times, but would I drive to South Carolina just for a Buc-ee's? I'm not sure.
That's kind of crazy. Florence is not a destination. It is a place that you pass through, which is why Buc-ee's put a store there.
My favorite stop on my way back to school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
As it should be. All right, well, we've talked for a long time about populations of people in South Carolina, but there is another population of creatures, not only in South Carolina, but kind of all over the U.S. and the world that people love to talk about in July, and that is sharks. It's Shark Week. I don't know how many of y'all grew up with cable growing up, but I did. We love Shark Week in the Smith household. How do you feel about Shark Week?
I got a little bit of flack talking to Caroline about Shark Week before we got on the call because I have never been a fan. Like, I never watched any of the shark programming. I don't know. I guess I just wasn't interested.
You're missing out.
Yeah, I feel like I never watched it too much either. I mean, I've seen Jaws, but my favorite part about Shark Week is when I'm laying on the beach in New Jersey. I'm right by the beach. We have these, I don't know if it's like only a Jersey thing, but we have planes that fly by with flags on them. I don't know if like you guys have that in other states. I haven't been to the beach in many other states.
We have those here too.
Okay, well, they always have the Shark Week flag, and it's just like a big shark on the flag. It's like Shark Week, and it's like July whatever through whatever, and I'm like, yeah, time to go swimming.
Yeah, because as Megan said, you can always feel safe going swimming on Shark Week because the sharks are in Hollywood.
Yeah, they're on camera. They're on TV. Go swimming.
A little disclaimer from the GMG crew, from us to you. Unfortunately, that's not logistically exactly how it works. all of the Shark Week programming, it's not live like you think. See, it was pre-recorded, so the sharks are all back in the ocean where they belong. So you do still have to be careful.
So you're telling me it's more like June 20th, the week of June 20th, that all the sharks are in Hollywood then?
Yeah, this was all filmed in the realm of like 1 to 3 months ago.
Oh,
okay.
Right, so I'll go to the beach 1 to 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Please be vigilant when swimming in the summertime. Watch for sharks. Listen to lifeguards and such. But Shark Week is a TV programming thing that the Discovery Channel does, and they have been doing it for quite a long time. The first Shark Week happened on the Discovery Channel in July of 1988, making Shark Week the longest running cable programming event in history.
That's crazy.
That's a big deal.
Chloe, you're missing out on history. History's being made without you.
Clearly I am.
Well, hopefully I've compiled some fun facts to hopefully pique your interest in sharks and might make you want to tune in to learn a little bit more. And a lot of the programming on Shark Week might not be all that educational. A lot of it's just entertainment, shark attack, big shark, oh my gosh, so scary, beach, Jaws, Sharknado. But you know what? Anything that makes you want to look something up is, in my opinion, kind of educational.
Yeah. Wait, so is Shark Week? I'm not familiar. Well, I know what it is, but like I have never watched it. Is it like they just play like random montages of sharks, or is it like a nature documentary, or is it like
all of the above? So basically, the Discovery Channel went on YouTube.com and typed in the word shark and just copy pasted the first 200 listings, and they're going to publish those on their channel over the course of the next 7 days. It's all kinds. It's documentaries, it's spoof documentaries, it's like actual scientists and researchers sharing information, it's funny comedy movies about animated sharks, it's just all kinds. Basically, it's a theme.
Do they play Baby Shark?
Well, also, that's a good point, because so even though Shark Week is a Discovery Channel thing, other channels on cable television kind of work with this theme. And so, like, Disney Channel might think, okay, well, it's Shark Week on Discovery, so maybe we should play more Baby Shark this week. And, like,
That's
Nickelodeon
fair.
will play a lot more Bubble Guppies, because there's, like, it's just now a multi-channel, multinational phenomenon.
And I think
Cool.
also, like, you know, the week of July 4th and then the week after, kind of think like beach, like summer vacation barbecue, and beach is involved in that, and that's where sharks are.
Yeah.
That's a great observation, Megan. That
Thanks.
is where the sharks are.
Ocean is in fact where the sharks are. Unfortunately, if you are a shark lover, I don't know if I would call myself a shark lover. I think they're objectively really cool and important to take care of, but sharks in general, this is one of the most endangered class of creatures on Earth. So you should take some extra care to throw a prayer up for your local sharks, because about 37% of shark species are threatened with extinction, and even more are endangered. This is mostly due to overfishing, but also climate change and ocean warming and acidification is leading to this as well. So remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about how the jellyfish population is getting a little out of control?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Sharks are supposed to be helping with that, and they're not, because they're endangered, which is unfortunate.
Oh. You know, they're also not able to help anymore with the population of surfers in the 70s. You know, like Jaws. No, did no one get that joke? No one got it. Okay. Okay.
Okay, another fun fact about sharks. Sharks have 8 senses, not 5, like us. So they are objectively cooler than people. Okay, so of these 8 senses, 5 are the same. They have, you know, sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch, but they also have 3 more senses that humans don't have, all of which are super cool. And I would love for humans to figure out how to evolve to, like Pokemon, to have these senses. So they also have vibration, which means that they can detect pressure changes. They know when storms are coming. They know how to flee turbulent waters before hurricanes run in. So if you ever wonder, what do the sea creatures do when a hurricane's coming in? They leave, because they know it's coming. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
It's almost like when a storm's coming in and my bones start aching.
Yeah, sharks too. Well, sharks don't have bones, but kind of the
Yeah.
same thing.
Wait, so technically we already have that then.
Yeah.
It's like how your knees ache before a big storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
yesterday, my knees hurt so bad, and then it started pouring outside, and I was like, oh.
See, when you're a human, they call you crazy, but when you're a shark, they call it senses.
So maybe we do have a 6th sense.
Maybe. Do you
Yeah.
have a 7th or an 8th, though?
No. But what do
Yeah.
the sharks have? Tell us.
Sharks also have something called electrosense, which means they can sense other sea creatures' low-frequency electrical fields. It helps them hunt in low visibility.
That's so cool.
See,
And
that's
also,
crazy.
hammerhead sharks prey a lot on, like, stingrays, and hammerhead sharks can sense prey, such as stingrays, that's completely buried in the sand on the seafloor.
So
That's
I'm
awesome.
picturing in my head, like, you know, what is it, like when you can like see somebody's like body heat and like body temperature. What's that called?
Yeah.
Thermal. Yeah.
Thermal. That's what I'm picturing, like what the shark is seeing.
It's kind of like that, honestly. Sharks do have excellent eyesight. Fun fact. They're used to dealing with situations where water might be murky or dark or something like that, but sensing electrical fields that are emitted by other creatures, that's cool.
I'm just like imagining a shark with a little antenna coming up out of its head and going just going like do 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 do.
I don't know.
Like scanning for the fish.
Stop, that's
Yeah,
so
just like
funny.
Beep 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 beep.
So a very similar sense to electrosense. It's a little bit different in the way that it works in their bodies. Their 8th sense is called magnetoreception. So like the word magnet, think of that. Sharks have like pores on their nose and snout that were first noticed in like the 17th century by an Italian scientist. But So these pores are still called the ampulla of Lorenzini, because Lorenzini was the scientist who first noticed them. He didn't know what they did, but he was like, those are mine. Well, we know what they do now. The ampulla of Lorenzini help sharks orient to the Earth's magnetic field, which sounds crazy sci-fi, but what this actually does for them is it aids them in migration. Imagine if you're underwater, have y'all ever like done too many flips underwater in a pool and then gotten a little disoriented for a hot second and not known which way was up?
Yeah.
Yes, I have a funny story. I was a kid and I thought it was so cool. I said, I'm gonna like spin 10 times outside of the pool and get myself really dizzy and then jump in the pool so I can feel like I'm in a whirlpool, right? That was my reasoning. And so I spun 10 times, jumped in the pool, and then I went to go like swim up, but my head hit a wall. And I'm like, oh wait, this is not up. And I almost drowned.
Oh no! Well, I'm very glad you didn't. But
I didn't, because I'm here.
If you had some ampulla of Lorenzini in your nose, that might not have happened to you.
I could have really used that. Anyway,
they also aid in hunting, which is also cool.
That's just why it's just another example as to why sharks are the superior creature to us.
They're incredible. Also, sharks, so when you guys get flipped over onto your back, you're just like, what the heck? This is weird. Why am I flipped over on my back? This is not fair. But if you've ever seen those videos of like biologists on boats that are like trying to attach like tags or trackers on sharks, and they grab it and they just like kind of flip it over so it's belly up and the shark goes like super still.
Oh.
They tolerate this very well because along with other kinds of fish, crustaceans, and also birds, sharks are capable of going into a trance-like state that's called tonic immobility. You know that thing where like you draw a line in front of a chicken and then it starts following it and then it like can't like hypnotized? Same thing for sharks when you flip them over.
Huh.
So that's the trance. So that's cool.
What like do you know what like purpose it has? Because like why? Like that doesn't seem like a survival.
It does seem like a design flaw. I actually don't know if that is a defensive thing in some way.
I feel like it sounds like playing dead almost.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Like when like goats like freak out and they just like freeze up and fall over.
Oh.
Maybe it also, I actually don't know. I don't even want to like make something up. It's kind of wild. Well, so you know how sharks, like, you hear this thing, or maybe you've seen this fact on Twitter or whatever, that like sharks have to keep swimming or they'll die because they'll drown.
I've seen that.
Some sharks don't have to do that. Some do, where they have to keep moving forward permanently to push water through their gills in order to breathe. So some sharks like don't sleep the way that other animals do. They can't because they would die. But some kinds of sharks have an additional respiratory organ called a spiracle. And what this does is it supplies oxygen to the eyes and to the brain while the shark is at rest or while the mouth is otherwise used for eating. So they can stop occasionally.
But not all sharks have that.
Not all sharks have that.
Huh. That's almost like, I almost put that in the same category as like a human having a fun quirk, like they're ambidextrous or they can wiggle their ears. Like some sharks just can breathe while sitting down. You know? That's like, you know, like when you're in elementary school and you find out that you're like double jointed, or you can write with both hands, or I can wiggle my ears. That was my thing. And you just become so excited because automatically you're cooler than the other person because you can wiggle your ears. I wonder if sharks have like, if they're like competing. Yeah, like I have a spiracle. Do you, Tommy? No.
Just imagine, I'm imagining the sharks in like the shark club. Or in like Shark Elementary, you know, Nemo style. And then they're like, well, I have a spiracle. And they're like, oh, well, I have electrosense. And the other one's like, oh, well, I have sharper dermal denticles than you do.
That's so funny.
Just imagine this.
All right. I have a very important question.
What you got?
What do we think about the megalodon?
Scary.
movie? Or the shark itself?
The shark itself.
Oh, well, I've never seen one.
Well,
Have you
obviously.
ever been to the South Carolina State Museum?
No.
No.
Well,
They
have
have
one.
They have one on the ceiling, and his name is Finn, and it's a giant like replica of a megalodon, and it's huge.
Finn is 100% real and alive.
that reminds me of the whale in the national. Oh, Chloe, you'd know the way. It's in New York. National.
Oh,
History
the
Museum.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the big dinosaur that they have in the front of the National History Museum.
Oh yeah.
That's huge.
I like the whale though. The thing's huge too.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
never-
weird, it's so small.
I never saw the movie The Meg.
Neither have I.
I know it
Actually, it was
was-
on TV last night when I was skipping through.
Shark
Oh,
Week.
really?
Shark
Yeah.
Week. It's on TV.
Yeah.
Catch it.
Okay,
You
I'll
know,
have
my
to
mom
watch
saw it and was like, "What's the Meg?" And I'm like, "Me." And then we realized what it was, and I was like, "Oh."
I'm just like, I don't like when things are like just so much like we're just so small, and that freaks me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked
Yeah.
about this multiple times on the show about how Delaney is freaked out by things that are not the way they're supposed to be.
But
I'm just- mm-mm.
I understand that because I was a kid and I was watching Jaws, and they were describing how big the shark was, and they said how big the shark was or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna measure with my feet. And so I was in my like family room, and I walked the length of my family room. It was the whole length of that room, the shark, and I got so repulsed. I was like, I can't watch this movie anymore. Like, there's no way there's a shark that's big. That
Now,
I just
Chloe,
couldn't comprehend it.
Imagine that many sharks in a tornado. Sharknado.
Sharknado is awesome.
Oh god.
Honestly, Loki, the best thing about the Sharknado movies is what they are called. And I think I need to. These are. Okay. So these are the names in order. There are at least 6. They are called Sharknado. Sharknado 2, the second one.
Is that really what it's called?
These are
the
literally
second
what
one?
they're called. Sharknado 3, oh hell no. Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens.
Stop.
Sharknado 5, Global Swarming. And Sharknado 6, The Last Sharknado, It's About Time.
That's funny.
That's good.
They're so bad, dude.
Who
You know,
knows who
it's
wrote
just-
those?
It takes a film genius to combine a disaster movie with sharks and say to himself, how should I combine this? Oh, let's just put sharks in a tornado.
You know what? I bet that the guy that made Sharknado could make Star Wars, but I don't think George Lucas could make Sharknado.
Good point.
What a comparison.
Yeah.
What an analogy. I honestly love it. Well, so let's stick with the Star Wars analogy. So, Star Wars, lots of planes, right? Lots of flying stuff. So, air friction and drag would have been very, very important to a Star Wars pilot. It's also important to real pilots, actually. And airplane wings and what they're made out of is heavily inspired by shark skin. Did you know that?
No.
So sharks do have scales, but not the same way that regular fish have scales. They're really small, and they're called dermal denticles, and it really feels more like teeth than scales. So think of it more like teeth. If you've ever been to an aquarium or a touch pool or something and done the touch the back of the shark, and it's like kind of slimy and smooth one way, but if you go the other way, then it feels like sandpaper.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's kind of like velvet where it's smooth one way, rough the other. And some sharks can either lift or flatten those scales to affect their hydrodynamics in the water.
Stop it. They have
That's
built-in
so cool.
propellers.
They have built-in drag reducers.
That's so funny.
It is really cool. And human engineers have studied this in the way that sharks behave in different kinds of water with their scales. And they've placed similar textures on things like airplane wings and swimsuits.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, happy Shark Week, everyone.
Happy Shark Week.
Yeah. Happy Shark Week to everyone.
Happy Shark Week.
Hope you've
Hope
learned
you-
something or two, and maybe you'll tune in and use your newfound shark appreciation for good.
Well, it's almost the end of our podcast episode, but this wouldn't be Good Morning Gamecocks without a fun food fact, of course. So, Megan, what do you have for us today?
Today is National Pecan Pie Day.
I'm so excited.
So good.
Woohoo!
I love pecan pie.
I don't think I've ever tried it.
What?
That's crazy.
Wow.
I've lived in the South my whole life. I've never tried it.
I also have never eaten pecan pie, but I have an excuse called I am allergic to pecans.
Natural
okay.
selection,
That's
man.
fair.
Sometimes you just got to do it.
Natural selection.
Natural selection.
Okay, I will say on campus we have McCutcheon. It is run by the senior hospitality students. They run the restaurant as part of their senior project of their grade, all that fun stuff. They make the most delicious pecan pie. You have that as an option as your like dinner part of your meal. They're like these little individual pecan pies, but during Thanksgiving they make full ones. Delicious. I highly recommend trying. You can even order to go there and order just the little pecan pies. So good.
I
I
don't think I even know how to order from there. I really want to eat it.
They just have a table outside the building when they're open. I've gotten to go there before. It's really good.
Their food's
Bucket
good.
list.
I agree.
Bucket list for this semester.
it is pretty good. It's not bad.
We should do a
But-
GMG inside scoop at McCutcheon.
We should.
Good.
Good.
But oh gosh, pecan pie. Oh, I can. The day I was introduced to such a beauty, changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
I'm
So
glad
good.
you had such a transcendental
I
experience.
really did. I started hearing colors. It was that good.
That's crazy.
I feel
don't
like we
know.
can't talk about pecan pie without bringing up the fact that some people say it pecan and some people say it wrong.
Yep. Does anyone here say pecan?
I feel like I switch between the two.
Ooh.
You have to pick one.
Yeah,
like, no,
pecan.
because I'll say both of them.
No.
Now I'm thinking about it, so I don't know which one I say.
Pecan.
That's funny.
Pecan sounds too refined for me.
Can
Like,
please
can I
a
have a
pecan
piece
pie?
of pecan pie? Like, it just doesn't.
So I think, is it true that it's like a northern thing to say pecan?
Yes.
So both of my parents are from, like, my dad is from Baltimore and my mom is from Philly, but I was like born and raised in North Carolina. So everybody around me has said pecan, but my parents both say pecan.
Interesting.
So I
Interesting.
just don't like it. Just switches. Like it. I don't think that it. I say it one. It's like caramel or
Caramel. Yeah.
I say
I
caramel.
say both.
think
I would say both. That caramel caramel, I say both. Depends on the day.
I feel like pecan and pecan are two completely different entities. Like the highest form of a pecan is the pecan pie. However, a pecan would never allow itself to be disrespected in such a way. Like that would be punishment.
So you think
That's
pecan and pecan have different personality traits?
Absolutely. 100%.
That's funny. I can totally see like a pecan being in some overalls, like baling hay, and a pecan is in like a business suit with a briefcase.
Wearing a monocle and a top
Also,
hat.
I was gonna
Yes.
say. I was gonna say a pecan is just a pecan with a monocle.
Yeah.
So just the Monopoly guy.
Yeah.
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 Like Peanut, like Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally.
But a
That would be
pecan.
great.
Mr. Pecan. Mr. Pecan.
No.
Pecan.
Pecan.
Just Mr. Pecan.
That's really funny.
I don't like that it doesn't sound like a word anymore because we've said it so many times.
Yeah, right.
Well, we might have to leave it at that.
With that, we wrap up Good Morning Gamecocks for today, July 12th, 2024.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at SGTV at USC.
And to keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtv@usc.com. For SGTV, I'm Delaney Flanagan.
I'm Chloe Findlay.
I'm Meagan Daukshus.
And I'm Caroline Smith. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great weekend, Carolina. Forever to thee.